sure we are here.
Yay, it's live.
Yay! Hey, everybody! We are here. Sorry we're late. That's partially my fault, as all I have to do to explain the reason that I am late is kids, and everybody immediately understands.
Yep, kids are evil. Don't
Or
have
we
them.
could go a little more in-depth and say you were having an in-depth discussion on hentai with us.
That is a thing that was happening.
Things quite a bit. But welcome, everybody, as we tackle BlizzCon 2018. So this is like one of my, if I have to be honest here, guys, this is like one of the things I've wanted to do since I started my YouTube channel. I'm a big Blizzard fan. I'm a lover of all things Blizzard. And unfortunately, because of the podcast that I run and the panel that I run it with, I don't get to talk Blizzard.
So he invites us on to talk about Blizzard.
Exactly. And yet they wanted to come on here and talk about hentai. Jeez. I think
that's going to happen on my channel later.
Oh, all right.
See, this is what happens when you need to pay for Blizzard buddies.
That's going to be the after show, right? Okay. So yeah, I have Blizzard buddies, but unfortunately, like Brenton's too busy. So, and it's just two of us, and I'd like to have a bigger panel than that. But yeah, so literally, as we are pretty much 6 days away from BlizzCon 2018, and all the hype is there. All of the hype is real for a lot of people. And that's pretty much what we're doing here. We're going to discuss BlizzCon 2018 and the announcements that might come. And I'll try and give whatever details I can as we go along, just because I have a couple of things up here, including the BlizzCon schedule and everything like that. But since actually a lot of people loved our Warcraft podcast, by the way, on the RSS feed. So thank you guys.
Nice.
We're back here. We're talking Blizzard, and let's just go ahead and get things started. Now, BlizzCon is a 2-day event, so there's only so much that they can cover. We already know that they have the band and everything like that for the wrap up. But one thing I did notice in the schedule is kind of absent is the fact that once again, people might remember from when I covered Blizzard stuff last year for BlizzCon 2017, Destiny 2 was absent. Because now we're in the Battle.net app, we're starting to incorporate Activision games along with Blizzard. And so I actually did make an argument that, why was Destiny 2 missing? Because there was a community that you could have vied for, but you didn't. So we're going to go ahead and start kind of that way, because again, it looks like Destiny 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 4 are noticeably absent. So I just want to go ahead and get this get this problem out of the way. Is it a bad thing that they're not at BlizzCon 2018? I've since changed my opinion over the year. I actually don't think that, like with Destiny 2, maybe there was possibility to be able to go out and talk about that, especially since Diablo was noticeably absent last year. You could have easily brought in Destiny 2 to sub that out. But now I've kind of changed my opinion on the matter. I don't think that the other Activision games have a place at BlizzCon. It's Blizzard's convention. So if they want to be able to do it, then Activision needs to pay for the privilege, so to speak. What do you guys think about that? Is that being disincluding to the Call of Duty crowd and to the Destiny crowd to not include them at BlizzCon?
In a way, you could argue it is, but I think as they add more games to the Blizzard launcher under Activision's umbrella, you're just going to you would have to add a full day for Activision at that point.
Yeah, and I don't know if necessarily they'll do it, because even though Blizzard and Activision have they have a business relationship, the way that I've had it described to me is that it's a tenuous one at best. It really is.
It's like financially they're under the same umbrella, but like creatively they're like two completely different companies or something like that.
They pretty much are. So they operate independently of each other. So it doesn't necessarily make sense for Activision products to be sponsored. Like if they're paying for the privilege, then they get their own area. And if they're paying for enough privilege, they get their own day. But yeah,
what might make sense is to like have a separate Activision convention like the day after or the day before. That way they can like kind of team up with the organization, but they're still two separate events.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, yeah, they're not there again, and it kind of makes sense that way. Because the other thing too that I think we can kind of be in agreement on is, where the Destiny 2 crowd might be able to get along with Warcraft fans and StarCraft fans and all that. The Call of Duty crowd, probably not so much.
Yeah, I just think like Blizzard has their own like family thing, and I don't want to like bash the Call of Duty, but it feels like it's like too separate just to bring it in because they're under the same parent company, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. I was going to say that, I mean, I suppose the Call of Duty players could relate in a way to the Overwatch players, but then I think that would also cause like a clash between them, because the Overwatch players will probably be like, well, your game is too simple. Ours is actually good.
Yeah, that argument will be placed on in any form, in all honesty. I get hardcore arguments, and I play hardcore games. I just play them at lesser difficulty. And so at that point, like, any argument can be made there. But it just, my argument here is that, because again, I got harped for bringing up Destiny 2 last year and saying like, why did you include that? It doesn't matter. And over the year, I've kind of come to the exact same conclusion. It doesn't make sense if Destiny 2 wants to pay for the privilege, then they can do it. But Activision doesn't get a say here. Like, they can demand all they want from Blizzard. They don't get a say in what gets covered.
And I don't think they don't seem to be wanting to demand, because if they really wanted to, they probably could have it, but they probably just want to let Blizzard do their own thing, make them money.
Pretty much. I think they actually, funniest thing, because we're going to be talking about Diablo later. I honestly think Diablo 3 was the lesson that Activision needed to say, oh yeah, we need to stay out of Blizzard's way, and that way we get money coming out of everywhere. Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but Activision demanded Diablo 3 release. And so at that point, they had to get it out in, I think it was May of 2012 when it actually did come out. And it came out with problems. Because
a lot of problems.
Yeah, a lot of problems. And a lot of that has been attributed to the fact that they rushed things because Activision demanded that they do so. And Activision learned from that and said, oh, yeah, how not get in Blizzard's way anymore. Let's just not do that.
It's like how Blizzard is known, or at least has been known, as like they will release something when it's ready and not before, and then they tend to have really high quality games because of that.
Exactly. And so at that point, it's probably a better idea to just not include any of the Activision games that are out there right now, especially the ones that are on the Battle.net app currently. So with that, I'm not going to be talking just about that, so don't worry about that, guys. But now let's go ahead and get into the Blizzard games that everybody cares about, and these are the ones that people want to see covered. And I'm just going to go ahead and start from what I think is least to greatest. But the least one that I really don't see an announcement from, and you guys are more than welcome to disagree with me on this, is StarCraft 2. Just StarCraft in general.
That's usually the case, though.
Yeah, as much as I am a StarCraft fan, StarCraft is how I got into Blizzard. I just don't see any major announcements unless they, literally floor everybody with StarCraft 3, which they've kind of pretty much confirmed is not happening.
Yeah, I feel like StarCraft is like releasing these small like extra things every now and then, but they're not really putting anything to hype it up.
Yeah,
it has its own little niche fan base in a way. It has a decent competitive crowd that they can get there at BlizzCon. So I guess the fans can be happy with that, but it doesn't get the limelight things like Overwatch and Hearthstone do.
Pretty much. Like, I love StarCraft, but unless they bite the bullet and officially announce StarCraft 3, I just don't see what else they could do with it. Because I know a lot of people have brought up the idea of like doing another Nova Covert Ops, like doing additional story within the StarCraft universe. But people forget, Covert Ops didn't do very well. Covert Ops didn't sell a whole lot of people on. So do I see them doing another story based in that kind of formula? No.
Yeah, it might just be better to just let it be what it is.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be honest. I honestly don't think we're going to get any major StarCraft announcements. Do either of you guys agree with me on this?
I haven't expected StarCraft to do much in the past few BlizzCons anyway.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, I keep on holding out hope that StarCraft 3 will be announced, but hopes are promptly dashed.
Yeah, it's like the story seems to be pretty much wrapped up. So unless they have a really cool idea to do more, why ruin what they have?
Yeah. So I guess let's move on into the next major one. And these three are, I'm not saying they're bad by any stretch, but their announcements are kind of predictable in the fact that like you can literally kind of say like this is going to happen with these particular games, and we'll just go through them kind of one by one. Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm. The reason I say that they're predictable announcements is because, well, Overwatch, you usually get a hero and an arena to be able to go into, or two heroes or something like that. Heroes will give you new heroes and new arenas. Hearthstone usually gives you an expansion. And right now, I don't know about you guys, but my prediction for Hearthstone and Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm is more of the same. I like Hearthstone will have a new adventure mode expansion to be able to announce on the show floor. And it'll probably be due, or it'll probably come out like 2 or 3 weeks later for Hearthstone, and then
probably like end of November, start of December, around that time frame.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like what they normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. I mean, like Kobolds and Catacombs happen that way too, and I see that happening. Overwatch, I don't know if they could do a new arena, but then again, I mean they have basically the entirety of planet Earth to be able to go make new arenas out of. So
I actually have a crazy prediction here. Yeah, I have a crazy prediction with Overwatch, which is probably completely wrong, but I'm going to predict they'll do some sort of single player mode, or at least a short campaign thing.
I would like to see them do just like another animated short that starts a new ARG.
Here's my honest opinion on, like, if they do a cinematic, I think it's going to be to announce a new hero. I don't necessarily think it's going to be like to do one on, I think Lucio doesn't have one yet. You know, like they're not going to go back that way. Instead, they're going to announce a new hero with a cinematic to kind of announce them. But like a new arena, I haven't heard talk of a new one that could be happening. I don't know. Have you guys heard any of that? I think you guys
follow Overwatch all that much.
Yeah, neither do I.
Okay. So at that point, I think that pretty much covers Overwatch. And actually, Art, did you give your opinion on Hearthstone? I can't remember.
I'm pretty much in agreement with you.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add there.
What about Heroes? Do we see anything?
They're going to add a new champion or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sad reality is, like, they could do another major event and announce it on the show floor, but I just don't see anything other than 2 new heroes and a whole new battleground kind of thing. And before people jump down my throat, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing to announce just those things, because those games kind of demand it.
There's not really a surprise though with what they're doing. The question is like, who are they adding? Not are they adding a hero, a map, or another thing?
It'd be much more unexpected to say, like, announce Heroes' new event, that it's going to be happening and it's a unique event that will have a unique battleground. That might be more interesting to me, but yeah, nothing bad against Overwatch, Heroes, or Hearthstone, but these are consistent announcements that are going to happen over time.
Right.
So I'm trying to think. I think we've covered pretty much everything aside from the main event here, which a lot of people think are going to be the forefront of BlizzCon. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the most popular one, because this is the one that got YouTube and the internet aflame. So much so that Blizzard had to come out and kind of clarify and pull people back a bit. But Diablo has lots of announcements, supposedly, that they're going to drop on us at BlizzCon. And one of the other things that has gotten people percolating on this is that right after the opening ceremony of BlizzCon 2018, on the same show floor, I believe it is.
I think you're right.
You get the Diablo What's Next panel 30 minutes after. Now, for a lot of people who don't necessarily, like, if you've never watched BlizzCon before, usually that spot is reserved for WoW. And like a new expansion and saying, like, this is why we've got to go to this new continent kind of thing. There's been 2 instances that I can think of where this has not been the case. This time, and the last time which happened, which was the announcement of Overwatch. So at that point, they didn't have a WoW What's Next panel right after they had the Overwatch Origins panel. So at that point, we have the same circumstance here. And that's gotten a lot of people talking about, like, is this Diablo 4? Is this Diablo 2 remastered? Is this just a showcase on the Netflix series that is coming out under the Diablo tag?
There's a Netflix series on it?
There's going to be something from Netflix, yeah.
Okay. I'll have to watch that when it comes out.
Exactly. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up to you guys before I give my really outlandish theory that nobody on YouTube is ever going to agree with me on. But I'm going to laugh my butt off if I'm somewhat right.
Okay, I'm going to agree with Drac on whatever his theory is, even though I don't know it
yet. So that's your theory, is that whatever Drac is, okay.
Yeah, Drac is always right about this.
All right,
at least.
Please inflate my ego. I really appreciate
it. Isn't that why you invited me?
Yes, I invited you to pat myself on the back. Yes, that's exactly what I did.
All right, glad I can live up to your expectations.
Art of Anime, did you have any predictions that you wanted to point out for?
I don't necessarily think it's going to be Diablo 4. I think that's jumping the gun a little too much. I think we're way overdue for another Diablo expansion.
Yes.
So safe bet would be a new expansion for Diablo.
Okay.
And something else to consider with why they'd have Diablo next is that, well, we'll probably not have anything that big like a new expansion. It'll just be a new patch. So it might make sense to give it to Diablo if it does have something not as groundbreaking, just because it's the biggest thing they have this year.
Yeah. Okay, so here comes the tinfoil hat.
Okay. I should go get some tinfoil for my kitchen.
Diablo 1 remake.
Wow, that'd actually be pretty cool. Well, technically,
it's Diablo. It's Diablo 1.3.
Yeah. So, because it's Diablo 3, Diablo 1 and Diablo 3. But here's my prediction for it, and a lot of people are going to think it's weird. But I don't think it's Diablo 4 in a way. I don't think it's Diablo 4. I think it's going to be a teaser for Diablo 4. I don't think they're far enough along in that game's development to be able to fully announce it. And the reason I don't think that is because the second people saw that schedule and saw where Diablo was, they literally went, Diablo 4, Diablo 4, Diablo 4! And immediately Blizzard came out and just kind of pulled everybody back and said, nah, not really Diablo 4 kind of thing. So I think, honestly, it's going to be a teaser for Diablo 4 to say it's in development. It's being worked on. And the part that people aren't going to agree with me on is that Diablo 2 remake, not remaster, remake, is going to be what they announce instead. Let me clarify really quick. I don't think Diablo 2 can be remastered. I've seen enough interviews from the devs of Diablo 2 saying that it can't be. And that's a crying shame, in all honesty, because Diablo 2 is a fairly good game, and it does deserve that spotlight. In fact, Diablo fans, you can finally get not pissed at me because I finally finished it, and the video will be up fairly soon. But a lot of the devs basically said the same thing. If you're going to remaster Diablo, you have to start from the ground up. And I think that's what Blizzard has intended. Is all of the Diablo hirings we've seen over the years, I think they have been working on a Diablo 2 from the ground up in current assets that can be done and worked on and everything like that. And that's going to be the big thing that they have for Diablo. And while they work on Diablo 4, this is going to kind of tide people over until Diablo 4 is done. And now let the rage commence.
Yeah, I could see that, but I also don't know if it makes sense for them to put all that effort into just a remake when they can put all that effort into Diablo 4 if it's coming.
See, and that argument can technically be made.
I wonder if they do something like with Diablo 3, like a new expansion that would somehow tie into Diablo 4.
That also has come to mind for me, is basically like a lead-in expansion pack for Diablo 3 to tide people over, which would the speculation I'd even seen online is like new Diablo expansion with 2 new playable classes, and depending on where you go, like those classes vary. So you have those, and then this expansion is supposed to kind of bridge the events between Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 and get you ready for the onslaught that's about to come from wherever it's going to come.
Yeah, that at least
So
that
get you
makes
ready to
sense for
stay
me.
a while and listen.
Hello, my friends. Stay a while and listen. Love me some Decade Kane, motherfuckers. It's always fun to curse in voices like that because you never see it coming.
Yep. And now your podcast will be unmonetized because you said a bad word.
Oh, for crying out loud. We mentioned hentai at the beginning of this live stream. It wasn't.
Okay, so it's all my fault you won't make any money.
Was I going to make money to begin with?
Probably not.
It's YouTube we're talking about here, right?
Maybe someday I'll get to 1,000 subs and can make like 2 cents off my videos.
Exactly. As long as they approve you.
Yeah,
you have to get to that step first.
And
it takes like 6 months.
And you have to start live streaming, and you have to keep your chat in line. Otherwise, you won't get the super chats.
Okay, so I don't invite Art to my live streams then. I should do more live streams.
So the consensus between me and Rising is just, yeah, it's probably more Diablo 4, and then they'll announce a Diablo 3 expansion to lead into it.
Yeah.
Art, where are you sitting with it?
I'm still saying an expansion's the safe bet. I mean, I could see it could lead into Diablo 4 in a way, but I don't know if they want to go all in one announcement and be like, okay, we got an expansion coming and Diablo 4 is in development.
That would be cool if they could do it, but
I think that might be
too much.
Jumping a little much. Maybe the expansion this year, the announcement next year.
Yeah, or maybe like they can, at the end of the expansion announcement, they say, we're still working on other things, though, or like some way to like hint people that there's more coming. Kind of like when they did the WoW panel 2 years ago with like 8.2 or 7.2. And then at the end they mentioned, yes, it's not over, though.
Yeah. Because honestly, either of these is viable. Like they could announce that Diablo 4 is in development and have a cinematic for us, which I don't think any of us would be against. If they had it, great. It's not likely. If they had Diablo 2 remastered, maybe the hardcore fans would finally get off Blizzard's back and say, "Oh yay, we finally get Diablo 2 remake." But that does beg another question. So I'm not necessarily going to go into what new territory this expansion could cover or the villain that could be there, because I think they're pretty much open-ended on that. They have a lot of potential for villains, but classes is actually something I think we could go into. And let me actually bring up some of the suspected classes in an expansion, and you guys tell me whether or not you think they are viable. Okay? Because I'm coming to Diablo from 3. So some of these classes make more sense to fans than they do to me. The first one is the one that's been speculated for a couple of years now, and that is the Amazon. I'm not sure if that...
Wouldn't that be a little just too much like Barb?
Well, the comparison that I had was I thought a lot of Amazon-esque mechanics got moved into both the Barbarian and the Witch Doctor. So does it make sense to have a legit Amazon now?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Let's say like shifted some abilities back around to make room for them.
I mean, if they wanted to do like an extra map, kind of like they did with the Ruins of Sescheron, which covers the Barbarian homeland, if they wanted to do that for the Amazons, I would totally understand. Like they've been hinting at it in Diablo 3 for a while, but to build the Amazon class when so much of the Amazon's integration went into other classes, it kind of doesn't make sense to have them in there now. That's at least my speculation on it.
No, I can agree with that.
That's kind of my deal. So the next one that gets brought up is, and it's been brought up since Diablo 3's inception, the Assassin. And the emphasis apparently that people want for the Assassin is kind of like in Diablo 2 where there was an emphasis on traps, basically making that like the main focus of a Diablo 3 Assassin. But I think the same argument could be made here, except instead of Barbarian and Witch Doctor, insert Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I was just going to say Demon Hunter.
Demon Hunter has a lot of Hunter-esque and also Assassin-esque mechanics to it. In fact, in a lot of cases, the Demon Hunter and the Witch Doctor are kind of similar. So, I don't know. Right, where are you at on it?
I think it could be doable if they commit fully to like a specific style that's completely separate from the Demon Hunter with it. Yep. But I don't see it happening, because then you could play Demon Hunter, you could play Assassin. They do pretty much the same thing, but with Demon Hunter, you just have a different weapon.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue that I see with it. Rising Sun, are you in that camp, or do you think that it's possible?
I don't play Diablo, so I have no idea what's going on here. So,
all right, that's the way it goes.
Yes. So I'll just try to I'll make stuff up though.
I mean, for crying out loud, like I still see people demanding a paladin class, even though the Crusader. Yeah, the Crusader exists in Diablo 3, and apparently that's not paladin enough for people, so they want the paladin class.
They sound like they'd be the same.
They are. I'm not even kidding. Like the difference here is that you have some stuff from like the WoW paladin integrated into the Crusader.
Yeah, that's why when I hear them, I think, okay, a light magic based warrior thing.
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, at that point, like that's kind of the way I see the arguments for like the Amazon, the Assassin, and the Paladin, is because they're already classes that kind of fill that niche. The one that I do think is viable, but only because I personally want it, is the Druid. And before people jump out of the you play WoW, you like WoW Druid. The Diablo Druid, as I've learned in Diablo 2, is very different from the WoW Druid. Mostly based on the fact that it's a lycanthrope.
So you don't turn into a giant chicken thing in Diablo?
You might. I only unlocked 2 forms, but there was a werewolf form and there was a werebear form. And so at that point, like, everything is based in kind of werewolf.
I do feel like that's something that Diablo's missing. Like, to have that druid would be something nice.
That would be actually really cool, to be able to do the Diablo druid. And because I already know that assets have been made for it. I've already read that when the Diablo team kind of came in to help out with Legion, the werebear concept that we eventually got. Oh, geez. The werebear concept that we got was from Diablo concept.
Hi, Drex daughter.
Hi. Be right back. So, yeah.
That's what happens.
Okay, so all right, what are your thoughts on the Diablo Druid thing?
I'm wondering if he's talking about the werebear that we got from the Mage Tower appearance.
Sorry about
that. That was a cool appearance. All right, so Drax specs in. Now we have to stop making fun of him.
Oh! Is that what we're doing now? Okay, right. That's the way that this goes. So yeah, the Diablo Druid I think is possible. But aside from that, I really can't think of another class to be able to bring in aside from, maybe making something that's and even then, like I was thinking about like a warlock type where you are making pacts with demons, but the necromancer is
the necromancer.
Yeah, so like a shape-shifting druid makes sense. I don't think Diablo has anything quite like it. So
yeah, a shapeshifter. Plus the other thing that makes it different is it does kind of have a boomkin spec in that regard, but it's strictly like a magic user.
Okay.
So, but like all of the other classes that get brought up, the sorceress, it already exists in there. It's the wizard.
Yeah.
The other one that gets bandied about is the Diablo one. I think it was called the assassin, but it was more like a hunter. And again, you have the demon hunter argument.
Right. So nothing really new with that.
The only other thing I could think of off the top of my head would be maybe a bard.
Yeah, like a buffer class that might be really cool. Having either a bard or another idea that I saw bandied about was like a Deckard Cain kind of character, like a scholar. that could go in and buff your group.
Yeah, so support type class, which I think that'd be interesting, but I don't know if Diablo would have enough to like support it as a single player if it'd only be good in teams.
That would be my concern with a scholar class, is that if it's integrated for groups, and some people like me play solo. So at that point, is it worth it to make a character that can't do anything on their own?
Yeah, and I might like to do the multiplayer, but like I want to be able to do it solo without feeling I'm too gumped because of it.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, how do you make a buffer class be able to hold their own?
Yeah, so unless they like had a spec where they could focus on their own stuff, and then they could like also focus on party buffs if they wanted to later.
Yeah,
I don't know the mechanics of Diablo, so maybe this makes no sense.
No, I think they could realistically go around that.
That they could make it soloable.
Yeah, they could make it a soloable class, but have certain runes and certain abilities specific for buffing.
Yeah, so you expect to be a single player, or you can expect to be a team player.
I'd be okay with that. But I mean, there are builds in the seasons right now that are like that. You know, there's a soloable wizard and there's a grouped up wizard.
Okay, so yeah, that can make sense.
So those are all the class speculations that get brought up, and yeah, I think we're pretty much all in consensus. An expansion's probably likely. I'm holding out for a Diablo 2 remake just because I know that Blizzard likes to shut up the hardcore Diablo fans.
I mean, if WoW Classic is happening, Diablo 2 remake is bound to happen eventually.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you bring that up because that's the next thing we got to talk about.
Great segue. That was, I'm sure, perfectly planned.
So I already have a video on the way to discuss this because people might remember a couple of years ago, I made a video criticizing Nostalrius and basically saying I was not sad that it got shut down.
Okay.
Mainly because of the fact that, you know, it does hurt Blizzard. Okay.
Well, yeah. It is basically stealing their game.
It is stealing their game. And unfortunately, the private server crowd got mad at me. And yeah, we had a bit of a tussle. So at that point, as soon as WoW Classic got announced, immediately people started coming back to me and going, "What? Now you have to eat crow because WoW Classic's coming." I'm like, okay, good for you. I'm not like I might have been interested a couple of years before, and you guys kind of soured me on the idea. So now one of the biggest features on BlizzCon's virtual ticket is the announcement of the WoW Classic demo,
where you start at level 15 and you can play in Westfall on the Barrens.
In other words, the same exact place, as far as Drac is concerned. So,
no, there is one difference. Westfall does not have Mancrick and his wife.
This is in fact true. But I would also make the counter argument that the Barrens does not have Van Cleef. Wait, Westfall doesn't either.
But Westfall doesn't have Barrens, chat.
This is in fact true.
But does Barrens have Westfall?
Barrens, you know that's why. Like I literally saw a bunch of forum comments going, "Everybody get ready, your Chuck Norris jokes," because they're all coming back.
I kind of want to play that now.
So let's go over the features really quick and just kind of give our thoughts on it. First of all, and again, like if you guys didn't watch the forum threads when this dev water cooler happened, go look them up because it literally devolved into outright flame war. All right. It was actually kind of splendid to watch.
So like what happens if I go to read comments on a political article?
Oh no, I would actually dare say this got worse.
Okay.
In some cases. And that's saying something. But the first thing that people got mad about was that they announced full BattleNet app integration. Okay, so it's going to work with the BattleNet app. It's going to work with your communities and everything like that. And on top of that, you're going to be able to do right-click reporting, which you would be able to do in the BattleNet app anyway. And the first reaction from everybody is, get used to hearing this. This was kind of a repetitive thing.
Yeah,
I think that was bound to happen. I mean, they're not gonna make something and then completely separate it from everything else.
Yeah, it makes sense why they'd want that to be part of BattleNet because that's like where all their games are. So,
and if let's just say that this is as close to vanilla as possible, which they've said they've been trying to do.
Yes,
they're not going to make it so you can invite some dude on Mal'Ganis into your party on Moonguard. You're going to be able to whisper him. That's it.
And here's the thing. We don't even know that just yet because they keep on saying that they want to be able to bring back that nostalgic glory, but then we keep on hearing from devs that are saying like, well, we would like to introduce this stuff into it, and then immediately the reaction is
sound effect.
So at that point, the other thing too, along with that, is they did talk about maybe introducing more modern textures, which are in the current WoW game, in the WoW world. So basically just bringing up the 2004-esque pixels into shiny new Battle for Azeroth pixels. That's not necessarily saying you have access to everything in Battle for Azeroth. It's bringing everything up.
Like the graphics would.
Yeah, I don't think the majority of people, don't want to look at a game from 2004. I think this is a very vocal minority that's being like, give me 2004 game, please.
Well, and a lot of people don't. The other misconception here is that a lot of the people who have love for the private servers but never gone to them is the fact that they think that those private servers are getting updated just as much as the actual client is. They're not.
Yeah, they don't like keep getting new art. They just have whatever the private server put together.
No, exactly. Like, I mean, textures and graphics get updated each expansion. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, when you're walking into a, like, say, Nostalrius, you're walking into a classic 2004 World of Warcraft. It's not getting updated visually. Like, you're not looking at an even crisper looking Westfall or Elrond Forest. You're looking at what it looked like in 2004.
I mean, it's realistically going to be the same content in the game. And depending how they integrate Battle.net with it, you could argue there might be a slight change in community for the game. But it's not going to make or break the whole product that you can see better looking water.
Yeah, it's like, it's assuming they don't have like cross-realm groups or anything. It just like gives you another way to whisper people for the community.
That's the speculation already with the Battle.net app integration, is that they want to do cross-server groups. And that apparently wrecks your 2004 immersion right there.
I could see how that would change things because the classic WoW is like about the individual server community, which we don't have as much of now.
Yeah. I agree completely on that. But at the same time, do I think like WoW Classic is going to have battle groups like Classic WoW did, or like Vanilla WoW did? No, I think it'll have a couple of dedicated servers.
I think it'll be a couple dedicated servers and they become their battle group. Yeah. I don't think they have much better server technology than they did back then, so they don't need as many servers.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also with that, like the updated textures, also updating the netcode so that things load properly, which again, people complained about, but guys, do you remember having to try and log in during the Burning Crusade on Christmas Day? The queue was horrible.
Queue, 5,000. Wait time, 24 hours.
Thank you. That's what it was. So I love the fact that people are complaining about that. And yet we have all this wonderful new tech that could run it, and you don't want that integrated? No!
I don't think I've witnessed a queue in the game since Mists of Pandaria.
I did the starts of Draenor for a little bit.
I had Draenor on first day, but that was because they got DDoSed. So
that different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was also playing on a high pop realm for a while then, and that was a bad idea.
Well, all the realms pretty much became high pop around that time because of the fact they were merging.
Well, also more high pop than others because the low ones that I'm on and still was on mostly then, they never got that bad, but I had a couple of characters on like a high pop realm I wanted to raid with, and then I realized, okay, this is a bad idea. I'm going to play my low pop realm characters now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the problem that I had was, like everybody, you know, you had the DDoS attack along with the problems with the garrison instancing.
Yeah, so the garrison starting span. Yeah,
getting so garrison for like 40 minutes.
Right. So if you have the garrisons, the DDoS, everyone trying to play because it's the new expansion, and you have their servers all caught on fire, basically.
Pretty much. They do that on a regular basis, if you think about it.
Yeah.
They really should look into that. As Art of Anime pointed out, so the range of this is going to be from level 15 to level 19, and it's only going to give you access to the Westfall zone for Alliance and the Barrens for Horde. So at
the
that
boring zone. I heard that coming.
That was it's going to be in my video. I'm just going to go ahead and warn people in advance. Both Barrens and Westfall are incredibly boring to me. This is actually one point where I have a complaint. I'm like, seriously, Westfall and I understand the Barrens, guys. Barrens chat, but you couldn't have done Lochmadon. You couldn't have done the wetlands.
I would have much preferred wetlands because I loved old wetlands. I kind of hate what they did to it with Kata.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, but I mean, at the same time, just to change things up a little bit, you pick 2 wasteland zones. You literally picked 2 wasteland zones. I don't get it, Blizzard. Why? But you did. And even better is you put in Westfall and Barrens, which are usually when people start getting into instanced content, and the instances are not available.
Yeah, no 2-hour VC runs.
Yeah, no 2-hour VC runs, no 3-hour WC runs.
Well, I guess if they have the instances, they might have issues with the time limit.
Could be. It could be. I think that, in all honesty, they're testing the world itself right now. They're not necessarily worried about anything else.
Yeah, they're like, this is like their basics. They have something they can put together to demo, even though so much is not done.
But of course, everybody has to go, hurt my immersion. You're seeing the same complaints being made throughout. And I don't know what else to tell you guys. I knew that they were going to try and do some kind of a limited demo, but I'll admit, I didn't expect this limited. And frankly, I think the level 15 was a good option. It gives you access into the talent trees and also professions, so you can start messing around with those. But you just don't have that big a world to explore. I mean, Barrens you do, because Barrens took forever. Jiminy Christmas, Barrens took forever.
All right, so we won't have to worry about people like running out of stuff to do in the time they have.
I'm going to piss off a lot of people. Screw Mancrick's wife. I already found her like 10 bajillion times.
I think the whole demo thing's a great idea, though. Like, people want to see Classic, and coupled with the demo, I'm hoping that they might give a rough release date. Like, maybe end of 2019.
Yeah, that would be believable to me.
But you also did bring up the other thing that people were complaining about, which was the whole, you're kind of getting the feeling now that this is also just a server stress test. They want to make sure that everything is up and working. So they are going to be limiting people's time initially into the demo. If it gets better, then they'll let you have more access to it. But yeah, it feels like a stress test, and I get people's complaints with it. But they have to test this stuff out, especially if they have like a 2019 release date.
Yeah, if they didn't have some sort of limit, then it feels like everyone would be trying to play, and that would just overload the servers. And they probably don't want to put a lot of infrastructure in place for just a demo.
Yeah, exactly. Especially considering that they were offering it via the virtual ticket. They wanted to make sure that this was a cool feature to be able to add in, but it was just to test the hardware that they have existing.
Yeah, so they need a lot more infrastructure from that as opposed to just being playable on the BlizzCon floor.
Yeah. But I think we're all also in consensus here. People need to kind of calm down about this. It's coming. You know WoW Classic is coming. I get that certain things are going to bother you, but I mean, I literally saw people saying, I bought the virtual ticket only for WoW Classic, and I'm not getting what I wanted. And it's like, well, first of all, why did you do that?
Yeah, first of all, you're an idiot.
You spent $30 for a demo? Okay. I'm willing to concede here I'm the old fart on this panel, but I remember way back in the PlayStation days where you got demo discs for free.
I don't remember that.
See, there you go.
You don't remember getting them for free?
I also didn't have a PlayStation. I had Nintendo systems.
I mean, like you what I'm thinking of is like if you bought a game, say like Final Fantasy, and then you would get a demo disc of
okay.
I remember buying Brave Fencer Musashi, and inside there was a demo disc for Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, wait, actually, yes. I got that on my brother's PlayStation. We had the demo for Final Fantasy VIII on there. I forgot about that.
And by the way, Art of Anime, that's coming. Me and Alex are on board. We're doing it.
Musashi or Final Fantasy VIII?
Oh, I'm doing Final Fantasy VIII. Alex won't join me on that, but Brave Fencer Musashi we're doing.
I actually got stuck at one point. I never beat it. I don't know if we still have it.
I had to go and get a new copy because my mom sold mine. So
yeah, that's happened too. I want to play Musashi.
But again, consensus here, guys, is if you spent your money solely for the demo and you're not even going to take a look at the panels, maybe you shouldn't have invested in BlizzCon.
Yeah, I find it hard to justify spending that much on a virtual ticket to begin with, much less just for a demo.
Exactly. So the thing that everybody wants or at least that I've gotten a consensus on that we need to discuss is, and this is why I saved it for last, Battle for Azeroth.
Beta for Azeroth, you mean?
We're getting there. So now that I've actually had some time, people won't believe me on this. I actually have a 120 now. I have one. You
don't have 7?
I don't. Not yet. Not yet. Give me time. I'll get there. I'm taking my. Once I get through the story, I will start busting through the content. That will not be the problem. But I'm sitting back and I'm enjoying the story.
Yeah, there's a lot to enjoy with the story. But yeah.
There actually is with both Legion and Battle for Azeroth. There's plenty to be able to take in. But this is kind of basically the Why We Geek reprised of now we can actually talk a little bit more on it. So first of all, let's get into the BlizzCon stuff, and then I'll get into some of the other things that I need to get off my chest now. Like Wamsamdi actually has a boss.
Oh yeah, that thing.
I am so hyped for that.
As a boss, really? But here's the thing. I find it funny that earlier on, I think it was Art of Anime that brought up the fact that at BlizzCon 2016, with literally patch 7.1 on either like late end of the PTR or it was out by then, Ian Hazzikostas took a very different turn with that and instead decided to not talk about 7.1 and instead talked about 7.2, which was the Broken Shore, and to introduce the Tomb of Sargeras raid, everything like that, and even to tease 7.3, which was Argus. And I actually feel like that's where this panel is going to go this time around. I think that a lot of people want them to address things like Azerite armor concerns and stuff for patch 8.1 concerning the Battle for Dazara lore. But I think that's how they're going to approach it this year, is they're not necessarily going to focus on 8.1. They're going to focus on what comes after.
I think we already know a lot about 8.1.
Yeah,
if we're following it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say most of the 8.1 stuff is already on the PTR. There might be a few more small things to add, but I don't think there's really anything new to announce that will be in 8.1.
Not really, no. I if it's that far into, because I think most of the raid bosses have been tested on
all
PTR.
but like maybe one.
Yeah, all
one
but
or two.
One or two. I think the end ones haven't been taken on yet, but
they did Rastakhan, but I don't think they did Jaina.
Right, I've not seen them do Jaina.
So they have Rastakhan, so they don't have Jaina. So at that point, if they're down to one, then yeah, that's probably what they're going for.
They're probably going to test her like next week or something.
Probably. So at that point, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to address 8.1 at BlizzCon. So at that point, 8.2, what do we actually think it's going to be? There's tons of speculation on YouTube and other places. What do you guys actually think is patch 8.2?
Okay, so I think, like you said, we're not going to see much of 8.1. We know a lot about the Battle for Dazara lore. If they do talk about 8.1, I think the only thing they'll talk about is the Azerite armor concerns.
Okay, so
what they're doing with Azerite. When it comes to Beyond, I think we're going to get a little bit more of a look into the Crucible of Storms, the raid that Ian teased back when he announced Battle for Dazara lore.
I don't think has been tested yet, has it?
It is not.
No, because it's supposed to come after.
I feel like that'll be like halfway between this battle for Dazora or whatever it's called, and then the 8.2 raid.
Just do what I'm doing. Siege of Zoldazar.
Zoldazar.
So
we'll do that
yeah,
one.
I think we're gonna get a look at Crucible of Storms. We might get a look into how we go about recruiting the Kultirans and the Zandalari. Maybe like a look at the first quest. And as far as we're aware, we know that Lady Ashara is going to be a boss, so we might get a sneak peek into her raid, and then, if we're lucky, maybe a hint as to who the big bad of the expansion might be.
Yeah, because that's we don't really know who the big bad is. Like we know Ashara, but it seems like she's like the middle expansion boss, like Kil'jaeden was.
So you're thinking we're gonna get Najatar is roughly what you're going for? Art?
Maybe not Najatar. We may fight Ashara, but we may not actually
kill her,
fight her at her home. We may have to chase her. Maybe a Gul'dan scenario,
or a Kil'jaeden scenario, technically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we go from the Crucible of Storms, which is supposedly near the Shrine of Storms. So maybe there's something else in that area.
Okay.
Maybe it's like a gateway to Najatar or something. Okay. Maybe there's another Naga city down there, like Vashj'ir. Maybe we go into there, we find some stuff going on, and Ashara comes in to stop us. But we don't necessarily go to Najatar.
Okay. So
and then I'm thinking maybe during the fight, we're not going to kill Ashara. She's going to escape back to where she belongs.
So so one thing I want to clarify on really quick is, do you think Crucible of Storms is going to hint at all about Ashara?
They've confirmed it's already a Naga raid, so I believe so.
Yeah, so it might be some of her generals or something.
I heard it was an arena. So like at that point, like there wasn't going to be trash or anything like that. You just take on bosses.
Oh yeah, it's basically going to be that, but it's going to be Naga bosses.
Okay. Because I saw the Crucible of Storms. I'm like, oh, this looks very old gaudy. Are we talking about like two Faceless One or Cathraki?
See, that's where I'm going. I'm thinking, maybe there's something else down there. Old God, and Ashara is trying to stop us. Maybe the last battle in that raid isn't just Ashara. Maybe she's part of the battle, like how Gul'dan was part of the battle with Archimonde.
That's true.
Oh, right. Yeah, so it might be like Ashara is like
how
having
Grom was in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they might have like Ashara in the background, like helping the old gods who are fighting us, but we're not actually fighting her directly in this raid.
Or it could be the other way around. We actually do fight Ashara, and there's an old god in the background. Because from everything it's pointing to in this expansion, it looks like N'Zoth is going to be somewhere involved.
It feels like N'Zoth would likely be the final boss of the expansion, or at least something along those lines.
But I don't know if they would outright do N'Zoth at the end of the expansion because of their whole mantra since MoP about each expansion flowing into the next.
Oh, so you think like it might be the next one be more old god with this leading up to it?
Maybe the final raid would end up being killing Ashara. Maybe she's the final boss again for whatever reason, which I don't really expect them to do.
See,
I don't think they have.
At that point, here's kind of my viewpoint on the matter, and then we can get to Rising Sun and see if you're on board with it at all. Because I think you're kind of right. I think we are going to have a Naga-based raid aside from Crucible of Storms. I actually do think it's going to be Najatar, because a lot of the 8.1, and we're going to be spoiling it, so sorry guys, but a lot of the 8.1 speculation is based around the fact that you will be able to, even if you're not a priest, be able to find the Shadow Priest artifact.
Oh, Xal'atath.
Oh, yeah, her.
So Xal'atath is returning, and it's actually going to be taking more of a forefront. Now, if if you're a priest and you already have Zolototh, you'll be able to keep it. And they have different dialogue for it. But Zolototh kind of hints at the fact that because you're also, while hunting for Azerite, you're going to be feeding Zolototh to help it recover from...
And doesn't it like turn into like a person by the time you're done?
We don't know that, but a model has been uncovered that is labeled Zolototh.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some videos, but I haven't like played it myself, so...
Yes. So at that point, I think in all honesty, it probably is going to be Nashatar, and Nashatar will rise. Nashatar will either rise from the depths, or the Tide Sages that we get from Stormsong are going to help us raise it, or give us a way to be able to get there quicker. So at that point, we'll have that. But I actually kind of agree with you, Art, is that we will be able to face Azshara, but we will not be able to kill her. Why? Because that Warbringers, I know that she kind of played the upper hand on N'Zoth, but at the same time, if things get bad for Azshara, she will panic. And so I honestly see her at like 10% leaving and saying, you know what? I can't get this done. And N'Zoth basically looking her in the eye and going, you could never get it done. Boom. I'm now involved. And patch 8.3 is Ny'alotha. Because Ny'alotha has been being hinted at since Mists of Pandaria, for crying out loud. And a lot of people want to be able to see it, especially when the Warcraft Chronicle gave us art for Ny'alotha.
On the subject of Ny'alotha, I believe you're going in a right direction, because just looking at the Zekvaz fight in Uldir, just summoning the illusions of Cthulhu and Yogg back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and like using their powers, kind of.
Mm-hmm. When he's just a servant.
I haven't done Uldir yet, but it would not surprise me, because
yeah.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, basically each phase is him channeling another one of these like 4 old gods' power or 3 old gods' powers. Like the first phase is Cthulhu's power. Second phase is, I don't know,
Yogg's.
Yogg's.
And the third phase, he just goes crazy.
Oh,
okay, yeah, that's nice.
Does he channel Y'Shaarj?
No.
Ah, dang it. That's the only old god I like find the most interesting is Y'Shaarj. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me that they include Ny'alotha. And just kind of alluding to what Art is saying, because I actually do agree. I think that N'Zoth is the final boss and we will kill him. But in us doing so, in us killing him, we then open up a path for the skies to grow dark and for the Void Lords to officially approach Azeroth.
Oh, there are a couple thoughts I have on that. I feel like the next expansion could be like a battle between like the light and darkness, like building on the Naru and what we saw in Legion, in that they might not be like the pure good, and then tie that into the Void Lords thing.
Well, I mean, for crying out loud. So, yeah, Rising Sun, you're prominently Horde player, right?
Yeah.
So have you unlocked a Magar Orc yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because
I know something about the story, though.
Yeah, it expands into that as I'm not going to spoil it here, but it does expand into the light actually possibly corrupting people.
Yeah, so maybe like the next expansion is like the light is the enemy, and like the Void Lords maybe like they're on our side, or they're both the enemies, or that could be really interesting.
Confirmed allied race.
I'll take it. And another thought back to Battle for Azeroth, though. I don't know exactly like how the story of the raid will like conclude, but it feels like there's still more going on with the Alliance and Horde conflict that they need to wrap up before the end of the expansion. So I don't think they would just go the old god route without also tying that in. So,
well, the other part that I agree with some YouTube videos on is that us bringing Nashatar, it makes sense for us to be able to do that, but Ny'alotha, that does sound like it does need to happen from us. And who knows, like during all these patches, we do know that the war campaign is going to get added upon. So at that point, we could get additional stuff that is going to help out with that. I've also heard talk of, Teldrassil got burned down. Vordrassil's no longer there. A lot of people think that the world trees are the 5 torches to light our path. So maybe war intensifies and more world trees get burned. Other things could possibly happen.
So maybe Sylvanas goes after those for whatever reason.
Yeah, Sylvanas and maybe even a corrupted, a lot of people are now once again speculating that the Boy King sits at the master's table. It means that Anduin is being affected by this.
Yeah, so that can be interesting, depending on if they can, like, while they're telling the story about the battle with Ashara, the war campaign starts to feed into more of the how they get to Nyalotha.
Yeah, because here's the one thing that bonds them together that I agree with this theory a lot is Azerite. Azerite is the resource that we're all going for. And even though it had different effects on both Sylvanas and Anduin, it did have a corresponding effect. It made them obsessed with it. So at that point, Sylvanas is obsessed with it to gain a war advantage. Anduin is obsessed with it to keep it away from Sylvanas. Yeah. That means that Azerite is the focal point.
And if anything, they could show like Anduin is going after it more desperate because he sees all the destruction Sylvanas is causing. So he has the right desire to try to stop her, but he ends up taking it too far and he causes some damage too. So that could be an interesting character arc for him.
But another thing that should be brought up there is part of the way that we feed Xalatoth in the 8.1 deal is with Azerite.
Who's Xalatoth again?
Xalatoth is the priest dagger.
Oh, okay.
The part of the means that a lot of people are suspecting we bring about this void elf form is that we are feeding it. And part of the thing we're feeding it is Azerite. So at that point, it does kind of make you consider a lot of the riddles of Il'gynoth and say it's probably for this expansion. The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Right. It means he's trying to help out the World Soul, but he doesn't know what else to do aside from collect Azerite.
And as part of the Old God's plot for him to collect his Azerite to empower Xalatoth, so and maybe that could lead to Nyalotha since Xalatoth is an old god, kind of.
Exactly. So at that point, it could still be our own actions that bring about Nyalotha. And then at that point, we can lead into an Azoth raid that eventually can lead into a potential Void Lord expansion.
Right.
I don't have any proof for this, guy, so don't quote me as gospel here. But that's how I feel like they're going with it. And I actually like what you're saying, Rising Sun, is that it becomes a light versus dark expansion, and we just basically get caught up in the crossfire.
Yeah, and this is basically, I forgot about this podcast until today, so this is all made up on the spot. So if I'm right, then I'm awesome.
Yay! That worked. Art, what do you think of my theory here? Do you think I'm reaching?
I think it could make sense. If we kill N'Zoth, that's the only thing I'm hung up on, because a lot of points have been made that while we did make Yogg and Cthulhu dormant, that during all the time when N'Zoth was waiting, he's probably become stronger than the both of them.
Yes. The other thing too that I've seen a lot of speculation on, I want to ask you specifically, Art, on this, is that because I think you were the one that brought up the whole Lich King thing to me in 8.1.
Oh,
I don't know if you've actually seen this theory going around, but a lot of people are now speculating that Bolvar is not who we think he is.
Well, considering we learned of who Talia was, I'm sure there's a lot more to Bolvar than we're aware.
Not necessarily that. The Jailer of the Damned may not be Bolvar. People might remember in the comics, Cthulhu took an avatar in order to help gain more power, and that was what's his name? Cho'Gall. He took an avatar to be able to gain power again and to be able to resurrect. A lot of people are now speculating that Yogg has taken the Lich King as an avatar, because and this is hard to deny here, is that unfortunately, now that we've done Wrath of the Lich King, we know that Serenite is heavily involved with Lich King and Scourge and all that, and Serenite is the essence of Yogg-Saron. So at that point, a lot of people are speculating that Yogg isn't dead. He's inhabiting Bolvar's dead body. And that's why the Lich Kings had more involvement in these previous expansions.
Yeah, it feels like the Lich King is not like how you'd expect a paladin with a Bolvar was to be, with his ruthless use of Death Knights against the Legion.
Yeah. Now, for the record, for anybody who wants to sit there and scream spoilers, okay, we are speculating, guys. So this is not fact. This is not gospel. We know that there's an interaction between Wamsamdi and the Lich King in 8.1, and that's what we're
We
guessing
do?
about. Yeah, there's dialogue on it.
Okay, yeah, because I thought that, yeah, when they talk about like why do they appoint Sylvanas war chief, is like the Lich King is one of the people to go talk to.
Yes, but apparently there's also a dialogue on the Alliance side. And if I'm getting this wrong, people can let me know. But there's also apparently an Alliance or a Horde dialogue where Blumsamdi has words with the Lich King.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember seeing that, but that might be 8.1. So I've also haven't been playing much the past few weeks. So
Beta for Azeroth.
yeah, I'm actually unsubbed for like the past week because I'm busy with other stuff too. So
yep. So at that point, the other thing that I also want to bounce into is Art brought it up, but I think it's definitely possible. 8.2 is that when we think we're going to get Kultirans and Zandalari?
Yeah,
I
because
thought we were getting them with 8.1.
Ian did say it would be after the battle for Dazar'alor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point, we will get them, and at that point, they'll be finished. The other speculation that a lot of people are wondering if we're going to get is there's supposedly another pair of allied races that are going to be coming in later patches. There's speculation on what they are. I've seen tons of stuff, and I'll bring them up here. But first of all, do we think we're going to get another allied race, considering all of the problems right now for Battle for Azeroth? Or do we think they've scrapped it?
Maybe at the end.
I don't feel like the problems would make them scrap the allied races because that feels like different skill sets they have to go after them.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think the Azerite armor changes are going to affect allied races because I think different teams are working on them.
Yeah, it's like the art teams is who would be mainly responsible for the allied races, and they don't help fix the systems issues.
So at that point, then we have to ask the question, what do we think the new allied races are? And I'm just going to go ahead and go with the one that everybody believes is possible, and it is entirely true, Volpera. However,
Volpera.
But the only thing that we can't get a consensus on is what faction do the Volpera belong to? I want to bring up to you two that there is actually E3 footage from an interview that happened there where they do show off an alliance run of Freehold and a Volpera hunter is with them. So a lot of people have speculated Alliance is getting it because they're testing that. But there's also strong inclination to be able to bring them into the Horde. So what do you guys think? Do you think either has a better shot at getting them?
It feels like Horde because you interact with them quite a lot during that zone for the Horde. And as far as I know, the Alliance doesn't, but I'm also not an Alliance player. So
the Alliance doesn't interact with them at all.
No. Yeah, so there's no story base for them to be Alliance.
Well, I mean, that can easily be fixed. Like the war campaign could be having us go and talk to the Volpera. I mean, for crying out loud, like before the allied races were put into Legion, everybody was like sitting there going, Nightborn going to Horde? What? And the scenario is what explained it.
Well, there's still, even before that happened, though, you had the Horde interacting with the Nightborn, not really any more favorably than the Alliance, but there's still that connection there. So it made sense that they go to one of them.
Well, they had interactions with the Horde, but they also had it with the Alliance. So I actually like how Blizzard balanced that to throw.
Yeah. No, well, what I'm saying is, yes, there was the interaction with the Alliance, but there's also with the Horde, so it could go either way and it would make sense. Well, the Volpera are only interacting with the Horde, so it would not make sense for them to help the Alliance.
No, but again, that could be fixed in a patch where we have a full-on Volpera interaction with the Alliance. But
yeah, maybe it could.
I think in all honesty, the E3 test was just to test them. Like it wasn't necessarily to make them Alliance or Horde. I think they were still trying to decide that.
They might just want okay, turn this person into a Volpera. Let's make sure they don't blow up the game.
Pretty much. And so at that point, like I kind of am with you. Like there's more interaction with the Volpera right now. I mean, like you have World Quest interaction, which you can't count for the Alliance, but Volpera has full-on story in Vol'dun that the Horde interact with them on.
Yeah, and it wasn't really strong, but maybe we'll get more of that in 8.1 or 8.2 before we actually get them as a race.
And if that is to change, then I also think there needs to be a corresponding reason for it. I need, for example, the Volpera meet Sylvanas and realize her intentions, and they go, "Oh yeah, we're not on board with this lady." The next one that is brought up, and it's questionable, even though it has assets that make it sound like it could be a playable character, the Sethrak. And the only speculation I've heard for this one is the Alliance, which I think is weird because, again, the Sethrak have a lot of Horde integration in Vol'dun, so it would make sense for them to be able to go that route. And the problem is their society aligns with both.
The one thing with the Sethrak, though, is the Alliance did find the wounded Sethrak and saved him.
That's true.
So maybe they are like, despite us working with the Horde mainly, well, that faction of Sethrak specifically, because if we expand to all Sethrak, then we're looking at this like we are Mantid. But these Sethrak and Vol'dun specifically, maybe seeing the Alliance do something like that, I could see a case be made. But I'd like to understand how a helmet model would fit on them.
Or legs, for that matter.
And I don't think with Sethrak there's been as much like character models data mined for them as it compared to the Vulpera.
No, the only evidence that we have is that the same cloak mechanics that work for player characters are integrated into the Sethrak.
Yeah, so it's not impossible, but it feels like people seeing Sethrak as like a parallel to the Vulpera.
Yeah, kind of. Well, and here's the other evidence that I think is viable for them to be Alliance, and it's only based on of it's not necessarily the Sethrak that agree with the Alliance, but Sethralus that does. And like, if you played the Vol'dun story, like Sethralus is Uber God to them, and Sethralus is a life goddess. Okay. And considering Sylvanas' intentions, it does make sense that she would then side against Sylvanas. But I mean, again, you could throw out the fact that even though Sylvanas is an agent of death, Princess Talanji isn't. Despite the Bwamsamdi deal, she's not an agent of death. So at that point, Sethralus could easily side with them.
Yes, I could see that if they help out the Alliance there against Sylvanas, and then that leads to what could make them an allied race, which it doesn't seem impossible, but I still just don't see it as likely.
Now, the next speculation that I want to bring up, and this is strictly into patch 8.1 lore, so it's going to be spoiling a little bit, but in patch 8.1, you return to Darkshore, and the Horde go there specifically for one reason, to refuel the ranks of the Dark Rangers for Sylvanas. So now you will have a bunch of Night Elf Dark Rangers, and so other allied race speculation is that for the Horde, you will get Dark Rangers, is the only way they put it, but you would get Night Elf Forsaken, roughly.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one, and this is what makes it kind of outlandish because a lot of people don't know this exists, and there's been no quest to kind of bridge that gap, is Lightforge Forsaken, which is basically what happens at the end of the Before the Storm novel, where Kalia Menethil is brought back to life by both Anduin and Alonzus Fowl.
Yeah, because I think Art was talking about that, or maybe you were, just how a light based on dead was so strange.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hadn't thought about them being allied races, but like for Alliance, you could have the light based undead, and then Horde, you could have the Dark Rangers.
This is definitely a speculation on that. Do we think there's viability for that? For me, I think it's unpredictable. I don't think that since Kalia, I don't think has even shown up in the game. If she's there, she's probably in the Netherlight Temple with slightly glowing eyes. That's not out in the world.
Yeah, so if anything, the only way they do that is if it was like a couple patches down the road that they had time to flesh out that story more.
Pretty much. And so at that point, then you could justify Lightforge Forsaken. What about you, Art? Do you agree with Dark Rangers and Lightforge Forsaken?
I could see Dark Rangers maybe, but I'm not too sure with the Lightforge Forsaken. One I'm surprised that you didn't bring up was San'layn.
San'layn is brought up as a possible speculation, but it's brought up with all of the older races that people think should be allied races. And yeah, let's get into that too. San'layn, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen because of the Lich King's integration. Because now he's back, which means the San'layn serve him.
My big thing against them was there was an interaction during the war campaign on the Alliance side where you spied on Talanji, I believe it was, speaking with one of the Sanlane, and she was hinting at there was a very, very weak alliance between them.
Yes. And so at that point it could be. And the only thing that makes me worried about that is that that's yet another Blood Elf model. And already this is also why I'm kind of not on board with the Dark Rangers, is because people are kind of getting annoyed with Elven models being integrated in. Void Elves got brought in to have Blood Elf models for the Alliance, and then also Nightborn were brought into the Horde to bring in Night Elf models to the Horde.
Yeah, so would they really do more elves now?
But see, that's the thing with the Sanlane, they are undead blood elves. So if they did it, then it makes sense for the Sanlane to go to the Horde. They have kind of that affiliation, but it's just another elf model.
Yeah, again, it doesn't feel like there's enough story build up for it to make sense, at least for right now.
Yeah. So we have Sanlane. I'm also going to bring this one up because, well, it did get updated in 7.3. I think Crow-Cool, or the Crow-Cool, are a possible allied race.
Which ones were they?
I've actually always wanted some form of broken Draenei as a race.
Oh, okay.
So the basically the updated models of Broken, and being able to create a Crow-Cool. And as far as affiliation, I think they probably go Alliance, just because of the fact that the Draenei are already on the Alliance and they have that affiliation. Although, considering the Crow-Cool's hatred for Velen, they could go Horde too.
And they could do something with Velen's story there, like he's able to like mend the relationship with them.
I'd like to see them do that, considering how dark things got for Velen.
Right, that could be like what would make it so he'd be willing to.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not completely up on their story, so. But
yeah, these are some of the other speculation, and I'm also going to bring out the other two that have been brought up, and these are a bit more of a stretch, but I do believe that they could work. Is Jinyu this is back to Mists of Pandaria days. Jinyu for the Alliance and Hosen for the Horde.
I think that'd be cool. I think if the allied races came out when Mists of Pandaria did, it would have happened. But as it is, it feels like they'd be pulling back like several expansions when I don't think they would at this point.
Not necessarily, because Pandaria is deeply rooted into the whole Zandalar story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because the Zandalari and the Mogu had many, many relations.
Well, the Mogu were part of this too, so.
Yeah, they were. The Mogu were heavily integrated into as enemies in Zuldazar. So.
Yeah, because they're helping Zul try to overthrow the king.
Yep. So it's entirely possible that they could go this direction. And the other thing that I want to bring up, this is kind of my personal reason why I want the Crow-Cool as well, is I know it's a stupid thing to be pissed off about, but I've been playing a druid for years, and I love the fact that there was a balance in the class where you had, when Vanilla WoW was out there, you had two races that could be druids, one on Alliance, one on Horde. You had Tauren, you had Night Elf. Cataclysm comes around, they only add one additional race that can be druid on each side, where you have trolls now that can become druids, and then you also have the Worgen that can become them. And ever since Battle for Azeroth, or at least the Allied Races launch, you have an imbalance now, because High Mountain Tauren can be druids, as well as the Zandalari trolls. Now, a lot of people might make the argument, well, these aren't, kind of recycled models, and hence why it works.
Yeah, they still kind of count as trolls and Taurens, so.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily, because the trolls, like we are already seeing, the Zandalari models are way different than regular trolls. So, and their models are even more integrated. So at that point, now you have this problem where you have High Mountain Tauren and Zandalari trolls as compared to the Kultirans, which are the only ones getting druid. And if you are going to make another druid class, no, I don't agree with the community. Volpera should not get druid. I do not want cute and cuddly druid forms if it doesn't make sense. Just because you're in druids does not mean it makes sense.
So if they have a Volpera druids, I'm going to race change to that.
just for me. All right, cool.
And they're Volpera, yes.
So at that point, but the two races that do make sense for it, because of the diversity and how, or not diversity, but the way that you can vary up the forms to kind of make up for this is one, the Crocool. You can make a Crocool druid, and then at that point you have a bunch of Argus models you can then integrate into it.
Oh, like the Argus models would be their different shapeshifted forms, kind of.
You don't know, because here's the thing: the Zandalari Troll means we don't have to have bears as bear form anymore. You can have a big old turtle, so you can fit in something that will match with that. And then the cat form, they already had cats on Argus. The stag form is covered. The only thing that really isn't covered is the Boomkin form, but we'll figure that out as we go along.
Right.
And then the other one is the Jinyu, because then at that point you can actually do kind of a fishy variant with it and have a lot of watermancy involved there, which Kultirans are kind of doing because of the Drust integration. So at that point you could easily do like a catty form of a cat, a fishy form of a cat. You can do a fishy form of a bear, and it would all make sense.
Okay.
So at that point, like those are the speculated races that I want to be able to see. But what do you guys think? Am I jumping off a cliff here for this speculation?
I think with Jinyu, it gets into the problem of the whole model thing again, because they use the same basic skeleton as Night Elves.
Okay.
So adding Jinyu would have people just, oh, it's the same model we already have. It just looks a little different. It has the same animations as a Night Elf or a Nightborn. You might run into that. And then going opposite that, if they add Jinyu, they have to add Hosen.
Okay.
How's armor going to look on a Hosen?
That is a question. But I mean, again, like we have that same concern of the Seth rack.
Yeah, the one idea I haven't seen, or I didn't hear you guys bring up, was the mech goblins. So like goblins with more like technology in them.
Yeah, these are other races that are speculated is or what do they call them? It's like over goblins or something like that, and then mecha gnomes.
Oh yeah, mecha gnomes. That's what it was, not goblins.
No, there's supposedly a mechanical variant now. Like
okay,
Gallywix is experimenting with that.
Okay.
So at that point, like you could have that, and I mean, if you wanted to do a mecha gnome druid, again, you have the cute and cuddly animals. That's why they want to do it.
No, but the cute cuddly animals, that's also a mech.
Yep, yeah. That's why
what they should add is wild hammer dwarf druids.
Damn it. So everything's Griffin based, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Griffin bear. Griffin cat, Griffin Boomkin that flies around and just moonfires everything.
That sounds like fun. Great idea, Art. You should be on the WoW team to decide everything.
I think there's tons of potential for the allied races, in all honesty. The only one that I didn't bring up, but I guess we should probably bring up, and then I unfortunately got to wrap things up because I can already hear crying kids, but is the Naga. Like a lot of people, if Najatar happens, they want the Naga as a playable race. And I'm not on board with people. Like if they make a model that makes more sense, then sure. But then you have the same, if you don't, you have the same problem of how are boots going to look on that thing? How are legs going to look on it? How are cloaks going to look on it? And that's...
Yeah, it feels like at this point, there's not really much of a story tie between the Alliance or Horde and the Naga.
Yeah. The premise there is that the Naga would become the second ever neutral race. And then they would pick a side. And so at that point, yeah, I kind of get your premise there, but I don't know. Pandarans, people had a 50-50 reaction to that.
Yeah, and I feel like people just want a Naga because they want to play a Naga, not because it fits in any way.
Yeah.
But I guess you could say the same thing with Pandara. Before they were announced, they had no connection to the Alliance or Horde. They just threw it into the story.
Pretty much. Like, I honestly think the Naga will never be playable because it doesn't make sense. They're servants of N'Zoth. They make about as much sense as us getting Karaji or getting Mantid.
Right.
And while I would love that, like I love the Mantid models and I love the Nerubian models, it makes sense for those races to be just servants of the old gods.
Yeah, just our enemies.
Yeah. So at that point, Naga, it makes just more sense for them to be the servants of N'Zoth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of my viewpoint on it. But just kind of wrap things up here. So right now, I think we're all pretty much on the same line here when it comes to we pretty much think that they're going to do future patches and maybe address the whole Azerite armor situation.
Yeah, I feel like if they announce how they're addressing the Azerite armor thing, it'd be more like a sub feature within the patch, not like something they'd announce like on its own.
Yeah. I would kind of agree with that. I think they pretty much have made their announcement. They're doing a currency, and at that point, that to them is going to fix the problem, which they're warning it probably won't. But I've got a
Band-Aid
too. I've actually got a video coming very soon that I'm going to tease right here now about why the artifacts are cooler than Azerite armor. And I don't care that I'm biased, and I don't care Azerite armor. Like, if I had to make one complaint of Battle for Azeroth while playing it, it is that damn Azerite armor.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts. I thought about like making a forum post or Reddit post with how I thought about that.
Oh, I'm already going to get there because it was supposed to be the replacement to artifacts, and it just fell short.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you guys are pretty much in agreement. We think we're going to get future stuff. I'm just going to throw it out here. Do we think we're going to get a cinematic or any kind of leak towards the next expansion?
Not to
Too
the next
soon still.
Yeah, they might like show the 8.1 cinematic, but that would probably be about all.
I kind of agree with you there. I think it's too soon to do a 9.0 cinematic.
Yeah, like at most we'll see something from 8.3, and if so, I guess it'll be something very small.
Pretty much like the Argus picture was.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that pretty much covers the speculation for BlizzCon, and I look forward to the announcements. And actually, I also look forward to bringing these guys on next week to actually discuss the announcements that do happen, along with my buddy Brinton Volley. He's going to be joining us too on the announcements at BlizzCon. Hopefully we get some things right. Hopefully we get some things not horribly wrong. And hopefully BlizzCon is worthwhile, as you know, occasionally we do have the year where BlizzCon is not all that entertaining. But overall, I hope that these announcements, I hope that a lot of the speculation is what you guys agreed with. And if you don't, feel free to leave a comment below and let us know what you guys think. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. So thank you to Rising Sun and to Art of Anime for joining me on this speculation experience. Something I've always wanted to do on YouTube, and now I can do it.
And now I agree with everything that Drax said, so he's right.
Exactly. That's the way that's the way you pick a panel, guys. You find one guy who will just always agree with you.
And I promise Drax did not pay me to say that.
Yeah. And after that, you have to create a change.org petition that Drac can never pay you.
Oh, I'll go do it. Believe me.
So for that, let's just go ahead and wrap things up. So if people want to be able to get a hold of you guys to be able to ask your opinions on them or to be able to check out your YouTube content, Rising Sun Reviews, how do they do that with you?
Oh, I am Rising Sun Reviews on YouTube. I am on Twitter under a similar name to that, I think. It'll probably be in the description. If not, throw things at Drac until he puts it in the description. I'm also on Discord if you want to reach me. That's the main ways to do it. Yep. Scream me with messages. I'll see it if I'm not working. All
right. And the Art of Anime, how do people get a hold of you and your content?
I'm pretty sure I said this last time, but just literally type my name in the YouTube search bar.
Hey, I can confirm it works.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, yeah.
I'm gonna go test that now.
Art of Anime on YouTube as well as on Twitter, and you get his pages. He worked.
No, if I type Art of Anime with spaces, I get a video by RC Anime.
Oh crap!
Yeah, but look below that.
I have Beyond Ghibli. I have Anime Every Day. I have Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio.
I think we're just.
I have Gigic. I have Mother's Basement.
So. I think Rising says just trying to prove you wrong, Art. So yeah,
okay,
that's ways to be able to get a hold of his stuff too. Is just look for the Art of Anime on YouTube.
Yes, don't just type it like I did, because then you'll find other people who are not as cool as Art.
I mean, you guys are plenty cool compared to some of the other people that you mentioned, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Art is the best person.
You guys are on my YouTube channel, but if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Drac2326 and ask me these questions about BlizzCon speculation. And you guys can also stay tuned, as on Friday morning, I will be doing a live stream of the opening ceremony of BlizzCon. I don't ever go past that because I don't want to piss off Blizzard, but we will cover the opening ceremony, and you guys get to see my reactions live as they happen, as long as I can make that work.
Well, and I won't because I have to work. So
yeah, that's kind of the downside, but you can check it out later. That's the thing.
If I remember.
If he remembers.
Such love. All right, and that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys so much for your continued love and support. And for me, for Rising Sun Reviews, and for The Art of Anime, we will see you guys next week as we talk what got announced at BlizzCon 2018.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.